So before we start today's video, I want to quickly take the opportunity to shill the Moist Ski Reads channel. I will be within the next 2 to 3 days be uploading the first video onto it. It'll be about Azathoth. It's just a short thing, about 3 minutes long. The entire reason for it though is to serve as a starter. My focus will be HP Lovecraft, and so I believe starting with something as short as that would be a great way for me to break into this gradually. All artwork, by the way, is also done by Pencil Cookie, linked to her channel and Instagram below. Please consider subscribing to her, she's pretty cool, for a gnome. Now, the subject we're going to cover is Shamima Begum, because something's come up that's rather irritating, because it now means that everything I've said before, all the good faith I may have shown her, utterly gone, courtesy of a spy chief passing on a briefing to the Prime Minister on Shamima Begum, and a bunch of reports from Syria itself. The first being that she wasn't as innocent as she and her husband claim. In fact, she was a bit sad, really, because she used to sew suicide vests on. How tolerant and lovely. She didn't help, though. It was just a part of the caliphate. The other thing, and this is the thing that really tells us she was nowhere near as innocent as if the suicide vest wasn't enough. But we'll get to the sewing thing in a moment, because there is a funny little tweet that I recall seeing. It's just a shame I cannot remember which Basil Brush parody account it was seen on, otherwise I'd show you. The second thing she's been caught out doing, courtesy of eyewitnesses, is she's been a member of the morality police, upholding Islamic law within the caliphate. You know those people, walking around with their bin liners, being very passive with their Kalashnikovs, telling all the truly innocent people, who are by definition truly terrified and oppressed by morons like her, by forcing their particular interpretation of Islamic rule onto those innocent people. No one should be forced into something, of course, especially with the tip of a gun. I know the definition of Islam means to surrender, but quite frankly, this is a piss take. We were led to believe in the interviews that Shamima Begum gave that she was living a quiet, happy, content Islamic life, as a good wife, a good whammon. Instead, we find out she was contributing towards helping ISIS oppress people that didn't want to be there, or wanted to be there, in their country, living their life according to Syrian rule, as opposed to the totally progressive ISIS rule that saw people beheaded for whatever slight they could conjure up, women tortured beyond mention for so much as showing a hint of skin, and let's not start on those pesky gays, because, yeah, if there were any unfortunate enough to be caught up in this, they were done. Then again, it's highly likely they were done before. Now, I do want to mention something we should definitely question for a second. A number of the eyewitnesses could be questioned as dubious because of who they are, where they are, and of course how credible someone who is frightened can be. However, there are too many reports now that would then corroborate their statements. So unfortunately for you, Shamima, you are not as innocent as you have tried to make yourself out to be, and in the interviews on ITV and Sky and whoever else was stupid enough to go into your poxy little tent while you were busy watching cartoons and losing your third child to malnourishment and whatever other ailments caused your baby to pass, you lied. Now, the funny tweet I want to mention here is that while you were sewing suicide vests onto people, someone suggested, and they used Owen Jones for this. I do apologise, Owen. You don't deserve to be used in this kind of context for fake article. But the title read something like, "We should bring Shamima Begum back and she should serve the Queen as her seamstress." And I think she can, but she doesn't have to come back to the UK to do that, because we get a lot of our clothes from factories in Bangladesh. And it's funny I mentioned Bangladesh. I don't need to finish that, do I? Now, I do believe it worthwhile addressing where some of the information has come from with regards to how we've managed to figure out that Shamima Begum is a lying little bitch. So, the first of the sources comes from an anti-ISIL activist group called Sound and Picture, members of which lived under the jihadists' rule and closely followed its members. Some of that information has since been confirmed by Western intelligence, which is understood at this present time to be looking into the allegations as part of a criminal investigation. Let's face it, if they managed to prove she was a part of ISIS in that manner, they would in fact be able to prosecute her for doing certain things she should not have been doing. Now, according to Sound and Picture, Shamima arrived in Syria after crossing Turkey in 2015. She was then taken with her 2 friends to the central city of Raqqa. She was sent then to a madhafa, which is a guest house for single women, and was then married to the Dutch twat. That is part of the timeline that we know already, but it's stuff they have since managed to confirm with absolute certainty. The activists have also then found out she was enrolled in the Al-Talai camp just south of the Euphrates River in Raqqa province, where she then spent 3 months being trained in religious and military training, after which then all 3 girls graduated the Kansar Battalion, which is the rather notorious all-female police squad. For 7 months, Shamima worked with Al-Hisba, which is the ISIL religious enforcement unit, the morality police as we know them, where most of the women in the Hisba took up roles on a voluntary basis because the position gave them an elevated status within the caliphate. Well, a woman's got to get a leg up somehow, doesn't she? I mean, it's not like she had equal rights at home, did she? Lol. Agiad al-Khader, an activist from Deir ez-Zor who founded Sound and Picture, told The Telegraph there were lots of young European women in the Hisba. Some of them were very harsh, and the local population became scared. Now, was it because of the Kalashnikov? Or was it because of the bin liner? Or was it because the Kalashnikov could be used by the bin liner as a deterrent? I mean, were they allowed to fire on the population? I mean, most of this is predicated on the assumption that some women were behaving in a non-Islamic way, according to the rather punitive rules set by ISIS in the first place, or ISIL, or Daesh, or whatever you want to call them. Let's call them what they are. Twats. Continuing the quote, members of our group from Raqqa knew her well. If you get the chance to interview her again, you can ask her about an incident that happened in Al-Amasi Street in Raqqa when she was with the Hisba. She shouted at a civilian woman wearing brightly coloured shoes and told her that was haram, or not permissible, as this would attract the attention of men. The woman said to her, so why is it okay for you to wear coloured shoes? With Shamima herself wearing white and pink trainers. Ah, this woman doesn't know. Hypocrisy. She doesn't understand it. But of course at the same time the woman that was being told off doesn't understand. Person with gun trumps person without one. Rather interesting to note, something I didn't know, is that the women in those roles were actually paid a salary between £500 to £1,500 a month. Look at that, ladies. Why have equality, accountability, freedom in this country when you can enforce the will of some dickhead in a cloud on other people, and you get to be a hypocrite at the same time, and you get to carry a Kalashnikov? How cool is that? At any point in this video have I required my sarcasm sign? Because I have to ask, because there are still idiots that don't get it. Anyway, during her time in ISIL, it is actually believed that Shamima was also active in trying to recruit young women across Europe, with messages having been shared to the Telegraph that had been sent by Miss Begum to people as far as in Australia back in 2015, using a pseudonym of Asma, before changing it to Ahmed, which means Mother of Ahmed. Obviously, because of the nature of the investigation, they can't share the images, which is a shame because that would then verify the validity of these particular things. And of course, how they then managed to trace Asma or Ahmed back to Shamima. That would be kind of cool. Naturally, though, as there are possible criminal investigations pending, we can wait, and it will be highly likely that much information will come out that will then tell us whether or not any of this is proven to be true. If it is, she's fucked. And I'm going to say this now, I no longer care if you get fucked, because you've now dug yourself into a hole, and you have proven and been proven to have aided and abetted a terrorist organisation that oppressed masses for some ridiculously mental notion of obeying God. Fuck your God. Fuck ISIS. Enjoy your tent and your cartoons.